Hello and welcome to another scrapbooking process video. I'm Tracy, also known as MercyTiara, and I share scrapbooking process videos, project shares, tips and tricks, unboxings, and more here on my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you this page that I made using the cut file from the Outdoorsy kit, and also lots of beautiful pattern papers from the Outdoorsy kit as well. So I am going to start by creating the cut file with my silhouette. So this is my silhouette regular cutting mat. It's just the standard cutting mat. And my Cameo 4 is new to me, so I'm still figuring out exactly how to use it. I've had a Cameo before and the design software is exactly the same, but it's been so many years since I've used it, it's taking me a little bit of time to get it sorted out. So this is my little camera that just shines down on my Cameo section. And I am just playing around. I have this little tool. It's like an alignment tool that I got on Etsy, and it just kind of helps you align your cutting mat. I don't know if it's all that helpful, but I have it. It was not very expensive, so I decided to add it. I keep all of my cut files here from MercyTiara kits all in one file over here in my library on the Silhouette Design Studio software. And I just clicked on the send button and that brought it up so that it's all ready to cut. Everything is already done. My Cameo is already kind of connected via Bluetooth, so it's pretty easy to do this. And the only thing that I wish I had done is I wish I had double cut. I always used to double cut everything when I had a Cameo silhouette the first time that I had one, which was, I think it was the Cameo 2 that I had. Anyhow, I used to just, as standard practice, just always double cut everything. And I wished I had done this. I have this set to 80-pound cardstock. I'm cutting a piece of basil cardstock from the kit, and it didn't cut quite crisply all the way through. And so, yeah, I think next time that I'm cutting cardstock, I just use the auto blade. I don't want to bother with changing the depth and the setting and the pressure and all that stuff. So I think I'll just double cut it, and that will just make sure that I don't have any little frayed edges like I do this time. Now, I also can't find the tools that I have for taking things off of my silhouette mat. I think my daughter borrowed my tools. She has a Cameo Joy, or it's not a Cameo, she has a Cricut Joy. She's my old Cricut Joy, and she's been cutting stickers and vinyl and stuff with that. So she might have borrowed my tools. Anyhow, I can't find them. I don't even know where I keep them, so she might not have them. Anyhow, I just pulled all those goodies off of my mat with my bare hands, and it's not that hard to do it. As you can see, there are some frayed edges here, not everywhere, but just every here and there. So I'm taking my scissors. My little scissors are not quite sharp enough to do this. I think I need to replace them. I've had those scissors for a very long time, and they're just not cutting as crisply as they once did. So I guess I'm going to have to replace those sooner or later. Anyhow, I just kind of took my scissors and fixed up some of the edges there. There weren't too many of them that were frayed, but it was enough that I just wanted to sort it out. So I am going to use this piece of textured wood grain background paper. This is a piece of cardstock that came with the cardstock add-on, and the green piece that I cut the hexagons out of also came in the cardstock add-on for the Outdoorsy kit. So both of these come from the cardstock add-on, and I love using cardstock backgrounds. For whatever reason, I never do it, but I just love it when I do decide to use a cardstock background. So I have picked out all of these hexagons, and I decided to use one of the center hexagons as a template for cutting out my patterned paper for filling in these holes. At first, I actually wasn't going to fill in the holes with pattern paper, but I just couldn't resist. And I really love how it turned out, so I'm glad that I did it. I picked some of my very favorite patterns here, and I'm going to start tracing. I'm using a pen here, and here's what I wish I did differently. I only did this for the first pattern. I actually traced it on the side that I want to have showing, and you have to be careful when you glue this on that none of those pen lines show. So after I did these three, and I'm just cutting it a little bit bigger than the hexagon that I traced. One of them I specifically traced a little bit bigger so I can cut right on the lines for those ones, but for the other ones, I'm just cutting it a little bit bigger than the lines. Now, I'm going to have to fuss with this in order to not see the pen marks. So that's why from now on, all of the patterns that I get, see, I'm just tracing it on the back side. That way I don't have to worry about those pen lines showing. So this is going to be the hexagon pattern that's on the back side of this paper. And I'm just, as you can see, I'm cutting it just a little bit bigger than the shape that I have outlined there. And I did count the spaces in this design, and there's a total of 15 hexagons on this pattern. So I've decided I'm going to cut 3 of each pattern of 5 different patterns. This is my favorite pattern paper in the whole kit, this wooded trail paper from the Trail Mix collection from Simple Stories. I love that paper, so I'm happy to get a couple of pieces of that on my page. And now I'm going to use the back side of this. I love this diamond shape that I already took 3 of, but now I'm going to use the back side of it. It's this beautiful mustardy golden color, and it's just gorgeous. So I'm gonna add that too. It has like little pods and flowery things on it. So there's that. I think that orange is just a little bit too intense. So I'm going to use the back side of this beautiful paper from the Everything Everywhere. No, Everyday Everywhere. What is it called? It's the Here, There, and Everywhere collection from Cartabella. That paper is gorgeous and I can't wait to use it, but I'm using the back side of it on this in this case because that is just too bold of a pattern. So now I'm just going to try to spread these out so that they're not going to end up side by side anywhere. And that ends up making it so that those 3 will be all side by side. So I had to make a few little changes there. And now I'm just going to rebuild this pattern right here. It's pretty easy because they're hexagons. They all kind of fit together pretty nicely. There we go. So that's the pattern. And I'm just basically going to take each of these and go around it with my glue. The glue that I'm using here today is Art Glitter Designer Adhesive, and it's the dries clear kind. And I also have the metal tip, applicator tip, which you buy separately. You buy the applicator tips separately, and we do have the glue and the applicator tips in our shop at MercyTiaraKits.com. So if you're going to buy a kit, you can add on a bottle of that glue and the applicator tip if you're interested in that. This glue came highly recommended, and I'm really, really happy that I started using it, so we decided to carry it in the shop. As you can see, I'm just going over the outline with the glue, and then I'm just piecing in each of those little hexagons into the little shapes. Sometimes I need to trim those hexagons down a little bit, but the more pieces I get put on there, the less I have to trim because the ones that are already on there kind of cover the edges of the ones that I'm about to put on, so that some of those edges, it's okay if it overhangs because it'll be covered by the pattern paper that's already in place, if that makes any sense. I hope it does. So this one I just did wrong. I try to kind of fix it, and yeah, I put the glue on too liberally and in the wrong spot, and then it was cut just a wee bit too small for the hole, and there was just a little gap showing, and it was getting to be really messy from pulling it off and putting it back on. So I just decided to cut a whole other one. I had plenty of this scrap paper left, so I'll just pull that off and try again. And there we go. So I think that worked a little bit better. And now I have to kind of move everything around just to make room for my workspace here. I lost that piece. It fell off the table, so I had to go on my hands and knees and find it under my table. And as you can see, I'm just kind of trialing it out and then trimming it down as needed, and then running that glue around the outside edge and then putting it down. I'm just dabbing some of that glue off with just a basic tissue on my desk. And some of those little edges are still a little frayed, so as I encounter frayed edges, I just am rolling them back with my thumb so that they're covered and that the frayed edges are sort of on the inside edge where you're not going to see them. Ooh, isn't that pretty? I love how this comes together. It's just so pretty. I do include my entire process for these videos, and so it just gives you a sense of how long things actually take. So this is one of those patterns that I cut at first, and so the pen marks are on the good side, and so I just have to be a little bit more cautious when I place that one that the pen marks are not going to show through. And so that's why I did that one a little bit differently. For the other ones, I can just place it blindly and know that it's going to look okay. So I'm just going to continue to do this for the rest of the pattern. And it's been so long since I've done a cut file like this that's been backed with pattern paper that I really forgot how much I love doing it. Like, the process is really kind of soothing because it's a little bit repetitive and it's kind of easy, but you still kind of have to focus enough to make sure that you're getting all the pieces in the right places and stuff. So, it's really, really rewarding as it comes together. Every time I turn it around, it looks better and better. And so I highly recommend, if you've ever avoided doing this because it looks like a lot of work, it's actually pretty soothing work. And I mean, like, you know, we're paper crafters. This is what we like to do. So it's worth taking the time to do something like this if you really like the look, because, you can't beat the look of a layered cut file. It looks so, so good. Look at that. Wow. That cut file is designed by the amazingly talented Nicole Noasad. And so, yeah, she does beautiful design work. So here we have my title connection, and I'm going to play around with the idea of where I might want to put this title. My first thought was that I'd like it to go across the top. I'm going to link a video that shows how I made those letter stickers, but I'm also going to pantomime how I made them right now. So I took my Versamark ink and inked the bottom parts of those letters, dipped it in gold embossing powder, and then I used my heat tool to set it and came up with the word connection that has gold on the bottom half of it, so they look like they're dipped in gold, and then they're unfinished on the top. And I really love the contrast of the unfinished chipboard with the slightly fancy or a little bit higher end gold finish on it. I just love that. I thought about doing this, and if the letters weren't gold dipped, I think they would look really nice in a circle like that, in a semicircle. But because of the gold dip, I just really like how they look straight. So I'm going to apply these to the top of the photo. I'm just deciding here, am I going to show more or less of these patterns behind, and I ended up deciding I want to have a little bit of pattern paper showing on the top edge there and on the bottom edge there as well. And so I'm just going to place these out. I've handled these so much in between making those, and I did link the video that shows how I made these in the top right-hand corner. And so you can check that out. You can also check those card videos at the ends of any video as well, just by pressing on the little I button at the top right-hand corner at any time, and any of the linked videos will come up for you. Now, because, this is a layout that has that kind of dipped look, and I want them to all be lined up for that reason. I also want them all to be touching because it helps tell my story about connection. So all of these letters are connected to one another. They're all touching. And that just represents the family connection that I'm scrapbooking about on this page. Using more of that same glue here, I love that metal tip applicator because it allows you to just be very precise in in putting your glue on there, and it keeps it from oozing, and it's really connects really well. It's a nice strong adhesive. So, Connection, there we go. That's the title. So there it is. Now, I was going to use some tape foam because this is a big piece to pop up. I didn't want to use pop dots. It would be too much. It would involve too many pop dots. So I was going to use my foam tape, and then I thought, even with foam tape, this is going to be a lot. So this is a great opportunity to actually use a piece of foam. So I'm just roughly chunking off the pieces so that I can get as much of this popped up with foam as I possibly can. And then I have this other piece here that I'll just cut some more little chunks out of so that it'll fit like that. Using liquid glue here. And then I'll just do a little bit of patchwork just to fill in some of these little gaps so that there's not too many big pieces that are hanging over without some type of support underneath of them. So there. Excellent. Now this whole die cut piece will be popped up off the page, and see how it gives that beautiful gray shadow border all the way around it. Just another couple of little fuzzy pieces where the die cut didn't cut all the way through. So I had to fix that. And this is perfect. I love this. I am using a wood grain textured cardstock background. It's really, really nice. You'll have a look at it at the end with the photos, and it's just so nice. I love, love, love that wood grain textured paper or cardstock. So I've decided, as I often do, whenever I use an elaborate cut file like this with lots of backing of pattern paper and stuff, I usually like to keep my embellishments to a minimum. So I'm going to be doing that here. I have these 3 places where I'm clustering some embellishments, except I don't like that they're all lined up on a diagonal like that. So I'm actually going to move them around a little bit. I am going to use pairs of brads. I'm thinking about using some of those foam stickers, but I'm actually going to very carefully pull off those foam stickers because I don't love them. So I'm just going to go with pairs of these faux brads from Simple Stories. They're from the Boho collection, Boho Sunshine collection as well. They came in the kit. I believe those were in the, yes, they're in the main kit. So I'm just going to move this cluster up to here so that I now have a nice visual triangle, and both my photo and my title are in the middle of that visual triangle. So as your eyes move around the page, they will take in very naturally both the photo and the title. I'm making little marks where my little clusters of brads are, and then I'm going to get some Mr. Huey's mist. And because I'm going to be using my fan brush, it doesn't fit nicely into the bottle. So I just poured a little bit out onto a piece of wax paper I already had on hand. And I'm just doing very subtle, very, very tiny splatters. These are very subtle. You're not going to see them very much at all. It's Skyscraper is the color that I was using there. And so as you can see, you can barely see that, but it is just one of those details that I really like. So I'm going to commit to where I'm going to put this now. So I'm just running some of that same glue, and I do put the pin back in right away. I don't want it to dry out. I'm positioning this so that the top and bottom are spaced evenly with the top and bottom of the cardstock, and also left to right as centered as I can. I'm going to, just to accentuate those 3 spots where I have the splatter and where the brads are, I'm just going to put 3 very small clusters of the confetti that comes in the Outdoorsy kit. And these are like sequins, but they don't have holes in them. And I'm just using my picker-upper tool and that same glue and just placing the 3 little pieces of confetti in each of those clusters of sprinkles. I love mixing sprinkles and confetti together. I think they complement each other just beautifully. So my next dilemma is, what am I going to do about the journaling? Now, I'd like to put some journaling right in this little empty space. And I do have a little tiny stamp that is the journaling lines, and it's the shape of a hexagon, but they're not going to fit. I wouldn't be able to write very much on those tiny little lines. So I grabbed my little stencil that I use for making lines. And for some reason, they came out pretty crooked, even though I did take my time and try to line them up. I'm going to use my Sharpie pen to do my journaling, and I'll read you what it says. It says, it had been so long since we spent time with the boys. It felt like getting to know them all over again. They are becoming wonderful young men. And when you are journaling on a textured cardstock like this, just take your time and just know that it's going to look a little bumpy, because it is a little bumpy, and that is all right. I tried to compensate for my uneven lines by just making the letters on the left be a little bit below my drawn lines, and then the letters on the right line up so that they end up on the line. And then I just underlined myself, and so there are pencil marks on there that you can barely see that are not quite lined up with the underlines, but that's okay. I love how the journaling fits there. I think it looks really great. So again, as I mentioned, I'm not adding too many details to this, like too many embellishments, because of the beauty of that cut file and all of those beautiful pattern papers. I really want them to shine and be the main design element on this. But when you have a page like this that doesn't have many details on it, then the little tiny details that you do add really get some of the stage, right? So that's why my splatter is very subdued, but you're still going to see it because there's hardly anything else to look at, so you're going to see it. It's the same thing with distressing the outer edges of this. I often don't distress the outer edges of my pages because you don't really see it all that much because it's so aligned with the page protector, but I'm taking the time to add some distressing to the outside edges here because I think that they will show off a little bit better because there's less going on this page. It's basically the photo, the title, the cut file, the journaling, and then those little tiny details like the distressed edges and the splatter and the few little bits and bobs every here and there. So before I share the photos, just a quick shout out to my Patreon supporters. These folks help make this channel happen, so big thanks to all of them. Patrons get early ad-free access to all my process videos, and they also get real-time unedited versions of my videos, as well as a monthly live stream and some behind-the-scenes videos of my room and my process and all of that. And thank you as well for watching all the way to the end. I hope that you've enjoyed this. These photos really show how beautiful a cut file can look with those beautiful pattern papers shining through. Using a cut file like this and backing it with various pattern papers is a really wonderful way to highlight some of your favorite pattern papers in a collection or in a kit. So that's why we love to include beautiful background cut files with our kits so that you can use them to really accentuate those beautiful patterns. So thanks so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and if you have any comments, please leave them below. I'd love to hear how often you use cut files. Do you use them very often? Do you use them for backgrounds or titles, or what's your take on them? Take care and have a really great scrappy week.